Hey,
Assalamu alaikum.
Salaam, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Good to see you. Thank you for taking the time.
Good to see you too. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. That's wonderful. So I would like to introduce you, Saadia Yunus. She is licensed marriage and family therapist from New York, and she is a motivational speaker, and she does workshops and speaking engagement nationwide. So, what brought you to license and family marriage and family therapy question, Saadia?
Okay, yeah, it's a good question because I actually, my undergrad is in English, and I actually had always planned to be an English teacher. I wanted to teach high school English. That was the plan. Um, Life happened. I got involved in the Institute of Islamic Sciences and teaching Quran there. And so I had so many people would come up to me. You know, these are women ages like 17 to 60. And they would come to me and ask me all kinds of issues, thinking, okay, this woman knows the Quran, you know, she can kind of guide me on these life issues. These were, you know, in-law issues, marital issues, and I could only help them with a little bit of, you know, information that I had, like religious information, but I realized there was so much more that they needed and that I couldn't offer. And so I was actually, you know, I took a break from school because I was pregnant with my first, and then my second came. And then when I decided to kind of go back to school, I was asked, you know, what would you want to do? My brother had asked me, and I said, marriage and family therapy.
Wow.
Just immediately, yeah, I just immediately came up because I was like, I want to be able to, these issues are there. You know, so many people are struggling and they have these relationship issues. And I realized I wanted to help them more than I was able to at the time.
Wonderful. So, how long have you been doing marriage and family therapy?
So I graduated in 2012. So I've been working since then.
Wonderful.
I got licensed 2015. So it's been a couple of years.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's been an amazing few years. Yeah.
And you see clients from all ages, or do you have specific ages that you see? You see children.
Yeah, definitely all ages.
You see children.
Yeah, children, but mostly adults. I do see some families, but I mostly get individuals and couples. That's mostly who I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same here. I I mostly see individuals and couples. So
Yeah.
so the theme of this program is confidence, and I think it's important to tap on the issue of uh, what we see in our practices. So many women, if you will, they are professionals and successful, but when it comes to their personal life, there are a lot of confidence issues. They are not confident. They have low self-esteem. Where do you think this is stemming from?
I think it really definitely does depend on the individual. And that's why it's so essential to really know yourself. And that's, you know, that's the message that I give off, you know, to my clients as well as, you know, in the, you know, speaking engagements, workshops, things like that is if you don't know yourself, you won't know what your weaknesses are, what your issues are, what you really need to work on. We may feel a certain kind of way, certain kind of negative feeling, negative emotion, you know, sadness, worry, anxiety, whatever it is. But if we don't really take that time to sit back and listen to what's going on inside of us and kind of see like where our struggles are, then we won't know what we even need to work on. And so realizing, okay, I don't have enough confidence, or I don't have that self respect or self esteem or self love that I need to have, it really takes that time to, you know, make time for yourself and be able to listen in to you and to hear what's going on and to learn about yourself. I know from personal experience as well, not only as a therapist, I struggled a lot with confidence, self-esteem issues. And there was so much that I had to learn about myself to really see, like, how do I overcome these obstacles? If I don't know what the obstacles are, I won't know how to get over them. And so I really had to go on this journey of self-discovery to learn about myself so that I could see, okay, this is what's going on. This is what I need to work on.
Absolutely.
And then take it from there.
Yeah. Again, for those who are joining us, I am interviewing Saadia Yunus. She is licensed marriage and family therapist. And people are joining us. I have Noreen. I have Fatima Amar. Thank you, Fatima. So a lot of people are joining us. Please like and share this video. Again, Saadia, when we talk about confidence, how do you think we can correlate between what we do and instilling, if you will, confidence in people and self-esteem? How do you think that reflects?
Say that again. How do we, what we
Sorry,
do?
how do we correlate? How do we really boost confidence in people throughout our work, like by counseling, by therapy? Because I think there's a lot of stigma around mental health. So, and
Yes.
people feel that if they go to a therapist, then they are not normal, you know, or there's something wrong with them. So, how
Right.
can we shift that and talk about growth, confidence, well-being, self-esteem, instead of like someone's crazy or someone has like mentally,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Definitely. Great question. Thanks for elaborating. So really, definitely, it's about becoming a part of that conversation. I think what you're doing is absolutely amazing, and it's really kind of allowing room for that conversation to happen. Like, what is confidence, and how do we have this conversation about mental health and therapy and counseling, and how important it is, how crucial it is, that it really does play a role in allowing us to, again, learn about ourselves and learn about our internal struggles, the internal dialogue that we have. So many of us have that negative, critical inner dialogue that really keeps us back from reaching our full potential. So definitely being a part of that stage of conversation with the importance of mental health. And then the second thing really is for us as therapists to be able to show our own vulnerability, right? And to say how important therapy is, not just because I'm a therapist and I want business, but it's about I go to therapy as well.
Yeah, me too.
And so I will yeah. So I will tell everybody, like, going to therapy has been one of the greatest blessings of my life, because it put me on that journey towards self-discovery, knowing myself, being compassionate with myself, realizing that I was trying to reach a certain level, right? I think sometimes we think we're not as confident, but we're reaching too high. We're reaching that level of perfectionism. And so it's really about being kind to ourselves. You know what? I don't need to achieve what everybody else, on Instagram or
Yeah.
Facebook are achieving, right?
Yes.
And so it's really being able to kind of give ourselves that kind of love, and to say that it's okay. What you're doing is amazing, and continue to do that. So for us as therapists to say that, yes, I go to therapy too,
Mhm.
and it's such a blessing for me, and it helps me to improve on myself and put myself out there in the world in a better way.
So you're saying having that compassion towards our own selves. So if we are
Yes.
promoting compassion to others, let's start with ourselves first,
Yes.
because
Yes.
we cannot give from an empty place. You know, we have to fill.
Hmm. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what actions or behaviors does a person take or do to undermine their own confidence or self-esteem? What do we do?
So yeah, there's a lot that we do, and it really does depend on the individual again. A lot of the work that I've really been interested in lately is of Susan Anderson, who talks a lot about abandonment,
Mm-hmm.
and how every single one of us, no matter what we've been through, we have abandonment issues. And so one of her latest books is Taming the Outer Child.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like the way that she puts it about how our outer child kind of acts out
Mm-hmm.
in negative ways. Even though we want to be confident, we want to have that high self-esteem, we want to be successful in society, but we engage in actions, behaviors, and communication with others that really hold us back. And so this is kind of that self-sabotage that we engage in, that really, like, I want to be confident, I want to speak up, I want to, have friends, but then we come back home after we completely sabotaged it or acted in ways that were the opposite of what we were trying to be. And so it's really that, again, that inner dialogue that occurs, that really is key, about knowing what that inner dialogue is. And if we're putting ourselves down, that if we go out in, you know, a new career, for example, and then we say, our inner dialogue is saying, you know, you're never going to be successful in this. Like, how are you going to be able to do this? Like, who do you think you are? And so we either listen to that, or we challenge it, or a lot of what, you know, the inner dialogue and the inner child talks about is really self-soothing. It's that voice that's not so sure of herself yet or himself yet. And it's about soothing that voice and being able to say, it's okay, you know, you've got this, you're doing it, you're taking the steps, you know, keep going.
You can do it.
So it really is about, you can do it. So it's being your own cheerleader, your own best friend, to kind of push yourself forward.
I think that's important because sometimes some clients say, well, if I did not receive love myself from my parents or in my childhood, so I'm incapable of giving that love when I grow up. And I think that work will work with them on the inner child. How do you think we can help people when they come and say, well, I didn't receive love, so how can I give love to my children or to myself? So what do you think? How can we respond to that?
I think a lot of that is really helping the person take responsibility and kind of take control of their own lives. Because we may be in this habit of kind of blaming others or putting the blame on others or saying that this is why things happened. And that's okay, but is that helping you move forward? Is that getting you to where you need to be? And if it's holding you back, if it's making you, you know, more bitter, if it's putting a barrier there towards the confidence that you want to have, then it's about letting go, right? Breaking the chains of the past, of what's holding you back from, again, becoming the best version of yourself.
Absolutely. So sometimes we talk to people and they see them like they are excited and motivated at the moment. And then come like 2-3 days later, or maybe a couple of weeks later, and this excitement will wear down and people are not as excited or not as motivated. So how do you think we can sustain that motivation and that self-soothing practice or self and compassion towards self? How can we do that with people?
Yeah, I think the first step is acknowledging our humanness, because that's exactly what we are. We're human, you know, we get tired, we can't sustain that motivation level, right? We can't keep that going. Like every day I'm, you know, in a good mood and happy and I've got this and I'm going to do this. No, it's just not possible. You know, we're going to be tired, we're going to be lonely, we're going to be irritated, we're going to be angry, old issues are going to come up. And that's part of the journey, right? That's part of this process towards bettering yourself. There are going to be those tough moments. So I think that's really the first thing, is acknowledging our humanness and just saying that I'm human, and you know, it's okay for me to be tired. It's okay for me to not be motivated 24/7. And so I think first acknowledging that, you know, to ourselves is part of that self-soothing, right? Is part of that self-compassion. And then we kind of say, okay, you know, now let's get to work. Like, what is it about this work that's holding me back? You know, what is it about, maybe I'm not celebrating the small gains. Maybe I'm looking towards the sky and I'm saying, this is what I want to achieve. And that's not acknowledging my humanness, is that if I look at the sky and I'm like, oh, this is what I want to achieve, and I'm not there tomorrow, I'm going to say, oh, you know, the sky is too far to reach. So I have to kind of be able to take those steps and acknowledge and celebrate the small wins, you know, the tiny wins that are getting me to the next step.
The incremental progress that we make every day that we don't really notice because we are so focused
Yes.
on the end result and we are not noticing what we are doing on a daily basis.
Yes, exactly. And that reminds me of, like, as moms, you know, myself being a mom, that's a huge part of my life, you know, with my 4 kids. And it's really about just getting at the end of the day, thinking, sitting down and being like, what did I accomplish today? You know, and just feeling that if I didn't accomplish something huge. But it goes back to, you know what, I took care of 4 human beings, you know, and they're still alive and well, and, you know, they're smiling and they're sleeping soundly. And so that's a huge, you know, success story in every day. And so it's really acknowledging that to ourselves and celebrating it,
Absolutely.
because this is not really a world of encouraging others. It really should be. We really should be where we're encouraging others and we're bringing each other up and we're lifting each other up. But unfortunately, we don't hear that enough. So we have to be able to give that to ourselves.
Do you think part of it that we always compare ourselves to others instead of comparing ourselves to ourselves in a different time?
Yes, yes. And social media doesn't help, right?
Yeah.
Because we see all of these pictures and
All this
images, and
happiness.
yes, it's right in our face.
Perfection.
Yes, perfection.
Perfection.
Yeah, with all the filters and everything, you know, we see what we want, and then we look back at, you know, reality of what is our lives, and we're like, wait, this is not what's out there.
Exactly.
So definitely,
Yeah.
it's really about paying, like exactly what you said. It's about paying attention to what I'm doing that's amazing and that's difficult, and what I'm accomplishing, and being able to give myself a pat on the back.
Absolutely. You talked a little bit about loneliness and aloneness, and a lot of clients come to us complaining about being lonely and alone. And
Mm-hmm.
in this life and this time and age that we live in, with the social media and individualistic orientation, if you will, across the board, how can we really help our clients or people in general to conquer that feeling and to be able to be content? What do you
Mm-hmm.
think of that?
Yeah, it's a great question for a discussion, right? Because it's a huge topic. Loneliness is, it's such an individual feeling, right? So it's so personal. Like each and every person may feel it differently, but I think it's really again about knowing yourself and what's keeping you back from moving out of that loneliness. I mean, number one definitely is be able to give yourself that self-compassion and love and attention, and you know, being your own best friend, to be able to kind of fill that void. But also to, when it comes to friendships, when it comes to love, when it comes to, you know, even a relationship with God, whatever it is, and if we feel like there are barriers there and we're feeling lonely in that relationship, oftentimes we're doing something that's kind of keeping ourselves back, holding ourselves back. What I started doing personally, I realized that what I was doing is I wasn't reaching out as much and kind of expecting other people to reach out to me.
We
Okay,
all
so if
do
she
that.
wants to, yeah, if she wants to keep this friendship, you know, she'll put the effort in,
Exactly.
and she'll text me and she'll call me. And so a lot of us, you know, may feel that way. And so what I kind of realized, I was doing that like a little too much, like maybe not messaging the person for a while and expecting them to message. And so I try to push myself to say, you know what, I'm the one feeling lonely, you know, whatever they're feeling. Oh, well, I'm feeling lonely, so I'm going to be the one to reach out.
Exactly.
To get that connection. And so it wasn't easy for whatever internal barriers that I have, but it's about pushing beyond those and trying to get what I want to get, or what will make me happier.
So it's just taking responsibility, maybe, or accountability
Yeah.
towards our own feelings and taking actions, because
Yes.
no one is going
Yeah.
to do it for us.
Right. Yeah. And kind of sitting around and waiting or expecting other people without communicating, because that's what we do, right? We have that expectation piece, but not the communication piece. And so we expect, oh, you know, she's going to call me, or he's going to do this. And we don't communicate to the other person, thinking that they can read our minds, or that somehow they know what I want. And so it takes me to communicate to, and then it puts the ball in their court. It's for me to communicate, you know, I would like to have, you know, a phone call every other day, or I would like to get together at least once a week. You know, does that work for you? Or what do you feel? What do you feel about that? Or will that work for our relationship? In whatever way that you communicate that, But if I don't communicate it, how can I expect it to happen?
Absolutely. And I think I know that the subject is confidence, but sometimes, when you mentioned loneliness, I kind of like ignited that these questions. I think at the end of the day, don't you think that feeling alone or being alone is actually it's a core concept in our life, because in our feelings we are alone, even though if we are with someone, but how we feel is a very um, alone or maybe sometimes lonely feeling, and we need to work with that, because even if we are with a crowd of people, sometimes we feel alone.
Yes,
Yeah, so I think it's about how we handle that.
definitely. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a very personal experience.
yeah, yeah. So it's about not really putting it out on people. It's actually taking responsibility of it ourselves. And yeah.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
um, you talked about working on our own confidence. What other actions people can take to ensure their well-being and confidence and self-esteem? I know that you talked about compassion and extending that kindness to oneself,
Hmm.
but what other actions people can take when they are anxious, when they are feeling they are unable really to take that action, or extending compassion to themselves? What
Hmm.
other actions do you think people can take?
Well, you mentioned anxious, and I think that's something that holds us back from being confident,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's public speaking, whether it's starting a new friendship, whether it's starting a new job or a new school or whatever it is, and so, or even day-to-day things. And so, with anxiety, it's something that's so common,
Mhm.
and there are a lot of things that we can do to help us with that feeling of anxiousness that can help us push beyond it so that we try to achieve what we want to, right? So what happens is when we're anxious, and you know this as well, but a lot of people don't really realize, is a lot of things happen in our body, right? The heart's racing, palms are sweating. And so what that does is that physiological response, right? It sends that signal to the brain, and the brain goes into fight or flight mode, and the brain is not in thinking mode or reasoning mode, or let me communicate in a loving way mode. So it shuts down, and people don't know that this is what is occurring. And so that shutting down of the brain kind of is a barrier to that confidence.
Mhm.
It doesn't allow you to even speak up confidently, to speak in the way that you want to, or you know um, to actually act in the way that you want. It's a barrier. And so the key is to really slow down and calm down that physiological response, right? So the deep breathing, the muscle relaxation, the calming of the muscles, releasing of the muscles, right? We don't realize that we're tensing our muscles, and that's what's sending that signal to the brain that there's something to fear.
Yes.
And when it comes to confidence, there is fear there, right? It's very much related to fear. There's a fear of what people might think. There's a fear of failure. There's all kinds of fears. And so the body is in fear, and the body can't act
Mhm.
in the way that is relaxed and confident, and able to talk about whatever. So that's definitely something that is really, it was life changing for me, and I know that it can be life changing for a lot of people,
Absolutely.
on how to kind of like calm and relax yourself so that you can choose to be confident.
Absolutely. I think sometimes when we choose to be vulnerable, this can uh, promote or like give us more confidence. Like when we are vulnerable, authentic, this is the way how I feel.
Yes.
Then I think this will make us relax if we allow
Yeah.
ourselves to feel that experience and live it, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I smiled because I love that word vulnerable and
I love that
vulnerability,
word. Yeah.
and and living the authentic life.
Mhm.
Like it's literally, it's magic. Like people don't realize, like So much of fear keeps us from being vulnerable. It holds us back from being our authentic selves. And so when we let go of fear, right, and we step forward instead of from a place of fear, but we step forward from a place of love and openness, and the ability to be seen, then it creates that place for confidence. It creates that place for connection. A lot of what Brene Brown talks about, right, that vulnerability creates connection. And so we miss out on that when we aren't willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah, I think when we're vulnerable, we create more meaningful relationships and connection with people, whether it's from
Yes.
our relationship as friendships or our family members or spouses, children, you know.
Yes.
Yeah. So from your,
Definitely.
yeah, from your experience, and I know with protecting our confidentiality, do you have a story, a success story of someone that came to you that they didn't have confidence, they were like really um, had low self-esteem, and after promoting that and helping them, then life shifted for them, if you will, and they were able to shine and be their authentic self, if you will.
Yeah, so many, and it's just so amazing to see, you know, that transformation, right? That step one to step 100, right? That they've taken. And so, definitely so many stories, but I would, one or two coming to mind of like severe anxiety. Anxiety is a very common thing, but that severe anxiety that wasn't allowing them to go into public places as much, or to go into, family gatherings, to even go to college, right? That severe anxiety of not, doing something wrong, or what would people think, or what would people say. And, definitely that fear of doing something wrong, that he had. And so we really worked through, definitely first identifying what was going on, understanding it. And we focused a lot on the body, really understanding the physiological responses, of what was occurring when, that fear was taking place, the thoughts that lead to the fear, that lead to the behaviors. So being able to help him work through that and kind of calm the body at first. And really, I feel like that's a magical first step, is when you're able to calm the muscles and kind of relax the body. This is what I learned a lot in my trauma training, is just even with PTSD, just being able to kind of calm the body. It helps the person to now remain in thinking and reasoning mode, so that they can choose how they want to continue forward. So just seeing him through that process, week by week, and just moving from not being able to go to college at all to now, in the third year of college, and just being, and then just being to, just checking back in a few years later, and then just being able to see that, transformation, being able to see that change. It's really amazing. It's really beautiful.
This is what's rewarding in our work, when you see the transformation.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
It's like changing people's lives, if you will.
Yeah, being a part of their journey, being allowed to be in that space, the sacred space of the self, the inner workings of their mind and heart and soul, that they don't let just anybody into that space. It's just too sacred. So being invited into that space, it's an honor. And then being able to be a part of that journey with them, into, living their best lives, being their best selves. It's
amazing.
It's so humbling. It's so honoring.
Yeah, when you
it's
say
absolutely amazing.
It's an honor. Yeah, it is an honor when someone lets you in, and then when someone tells you, "This is my space. This is where I share how I feel." It's like you feel this. You feel so humbled by it. It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. So, in order for someone to get to that point, some people don't do the work. Some people are not willing to do the work. So sometimes the process doesn't take that path, if you will. So, do you have in your mind any story of someone did not do that work, and then they did not achieve the results that were expected or they wanted to achieve?
I can't think of one example, but definitely I had probably a couple of cases where, you know, somebody came in and the work just seemed too
Mm-hmm.
much at that time, where it was like, this is too much work. It takes a lot of mind work
Yeah.
as well, you know, really kind of paying attention to what's going on in the mind. And not everybody's willing to do that. Or I think what happens also is they don't realize at the first step that it will take work and it will take time. Oftentimes people have this misconception about therapy is that, okay, I can go in 1 or 2 sessions and I'm good. You know, it's like a magic pill that
Yes.
you're supposed to fix
Yeah,
me, or you're
fix
supposed to
me.
advise me. You're supposed to advise me. You're supposed to tell me what
Do
to do.
exactly.
And it doesn't work that way. You know, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to help you, you know, and guide you to what's best for you from your, you know, your perspective.
Yeah.
So I think it really takes a little bit of teaching, you know, when people come in and they're like, oh, you know, I think I just need 1 or 2 sessions and I'll
Yeah.
be good. And we have to kind of explain, no,
That's
it takes a little bit longer. It's a lifelong journey
absolutely.
towards, you
Absolutely.
know, living your best self. It really is.
Yeah. Because as a therapist, we facilitate that dialogue, if you will, between one person and the self, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
it takes time because people are not always as ready in every session. So it's not a
Yes.
breakthrough in every session. It depends.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So um, uh, I'm so enjoying this conversation with you.
Me
Thank you so much.
too. Me
Thank you.
too. Thank you.
Thank you. For those who are joining us, I am interviewing Saadia Yunus. She is licensed marriage and family therapist from New York. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section and I will address them at the end of the interview. I have a lot of people watching. A lot of people are excited to listen to you, Saadia. So thank you. Um, so,
Thank you.
what are your professional future plans, if you will?
Future plans, right? We ask this question to our
I know
clients.
you're
We're like,
you're very active all over, so you know it's amazing to watch you and listen to you. I'm so humbled to
oh,
have you.
thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so honored to
Thank you,
be here.
thank you,
It's such a blessing.
thank you.
Yeah. So definitely my professional plans, it really goes around my family. my my kids are first. And so it really is about what I can kind of fit around, you know, their schedules and making it really work for my family. So definitely focusing a lot on my private practice. And, you know, I love my community and working in the community. So I'm always trying to see like what issue is coming up in therapy that I could do a workshop
Mhm.
or something on so that people can become more aware of what's going on. So definitely kind of reaching out to the community, doing more workshops and things like this. I've lately been very blessed to become a part of a couple of organizations. So I'm definitely continuing the involvement there. One being with FACE, Facing Abuse in Community Environments, as well as Khalil Center in New York. Um, a few others as well locally, my local masjid and a local family health center. So just definitely keeping up that community involvement and engagement and seeing where I can make an impact or make a change or help people in wherever it's needed.
Yeah, definitely we need that awareness, especially when it comes to abuse, because most of the
Yes.
time we don't talk about that. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember one of my guests, like a couple of weeks back, she talked about a particular abuse that she was interested in the in-laws, the abuse from the
Mm.
in-laws in our community. That's usually
Okay.
not talked about. So that's very
Mm-hmm.
interesting that we are starting to have that dialogue in our community
Yes.
around abuse and how we address them and how we uh, encourage people to come forward and talk about it, if you will.
Yes, definitely. It's so important. It's really been a passion of mine to work in that area. I actually started out when I was getting my hours with Domestic Harmony
Mm-hmm.
Foundation on Long Island, and it really allowed me to see like how important that work is and how, you know, the conversation is not happening often enough.
Yes, absolutely.
And And now with face, it's a lot of the, the spiritual abuse. And so all of these topics, they need to be on the table, and we need more people involved to talk about these things. So people are more aware, and the people who are being abused get that support, that it's okay, to speak up and to reach out for help.
So when you talk about spiritual abuse, and I do remember on our group that we had, I Selma Awjderi had, I think, interview about spiritual abuse. Would you be able to give like just a brief about spiritual abuse, because I think this is something a lot of people might not know about.
Yeah, definitely. So it's really abuse by, a person of power, like a religious power, in the sense of clergy, etc., clergy, imams, etc., and different types of abuse, right? It can be physical, sexual, financial, etc. And it's challenging because there's that power dynamic there, and so the people who are being abused aren't, it's very difficult for them to reach out and to really report that abuse and to really receive that support. And so this organization, FACE, is really there to allow that place, so that this conversation is on the table, and now there's accountability there, and people can get the help that they need.
Amazing. So do you think when some imams or some clergies, when they use certain interpretations to suppress someone's right, do you think that can be considered spiritual abuse when they use their
Definitely.
power?
Sure, definitely. Yeah. And any kind of abuse against the person, right? They're being taken advantage of, they're being harmed, they're being hurt in any way. And so it's definitely falls under that category. And they're encouraged to report it, to speak up, so that they can no longer be abused, and to move out of that situation, and so that others in the community don't fall under that as well. So they're protected too.
So there's a question here. Do you work strictly in person or via net?
So I'm in person on Long Island, New York, and online as well in New York State.
Yeah, because you're licensed in New York.
Yes,
yeah, we are bound
the
by the licensure state.
Yeah,
like I'm in
yes,
Pennsylvania. Yeah, absolutely.
yes. But there are some exceptions, especially when it comes to marriage and family therapy.
Yes.
There are some states that allow temporary marriage counseling from marriage and family therapists out of state. So I do have a list of those states as well. So I do have clients in those states.
Oh, okay, that will be helpful. Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe I would ask you to share that list with me.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. So,
Sure.
How can people contact you?
Yeah, so my information is everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, it's all there. My website is saadiayunus.com. Info@saadiayunus.com. They can email me. And then my cell phone number is everywhere as well, 828-565-1638. So they can contact me any and all of those ways.
Oh, wonderful. I have here your website. I have your, just website. I think with your website, they can reach your email and your Instagram. And am I right?
Yes, yes. All the information is there. Yeah, there are links to the Instagram and YouTube channel and things like that. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, what are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. This was absolutely beautiful. It was such
I'm
an
so honored, and
conversation.
so happy to have you on this interview.
Yes, thank you so much. It was such a great conversation. When we have these topics about how to improve ourselves and how to help others, it's just so uplifting.
Absolutely.
It makes you very hopeful about the work that we're doing, that it's sometimes it can get very difficult, right, with a lot of the stories that we hear and a lot of the people that we deal with. I tell people sometimes, like, we're containers for pain. There's a lot of pain out there in the world, and we hold that for people. We hold that space for people. But when we can see the benefit that it's doing and how many people it's helping, and even personally, how much it's helped me. And then these kinds of conversations, it gives you so much hope, you know, about humanity.
Absolutely.
That it isn't all dark. You know,
Yeah.
there's so much light out there, and it starts inside of each and every one of us.
So Tina is asking, how do you process it?
Oh, how do we process the pain? Yes, yes. It's challenging, definitely. It's definitely challenging.
She said, how do you
It's some
process, I'm sorry for interrupting, without negatively affecting you? This is her question.
okay. I don't think that's possible. Not negatively affecting me. I
Absolutely.
think with each and every person, you know, that I work with and the things that people go through and that I hear, it does negatively affect
Yeah,
me. You know, I'm human and I feel, and, you know, oftentimes I cry with them, and,
absolutely.
you know, so I'm definitely feeling it. But as far as not negatively affecting me, you know, so much, right? It's really about making sure that I'm engaged in self-care.
Exactly.
Sometimes even right after the session, you know, on my drive home, it's just opening all the windows, depending on the weather in New York, but opening all the windows, taking some deep breaths, and literally just, you know, I do this thing where I just am taking it out and just
Yeah.
kind of like expelling it out. And so that's just one thing that I do, but definitely engaging in that self-care, making sure I'm taking care of myself, I'm expressing it somehow, you know, in my notes, and being able to just really pay attention to how it's affecting me, my body and my mind, my soul, my heart, how it's affecting me, and being sure to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah. And sometimes like we think about like how and why it's affecting me, for instance, or the person. And
Mm,
is it something that I really need to work on myself with my own therapist, or I need, like, for instance, peer consultation and just to process it? Sometimes we need that, you know, that another
yes,
clinician's opinion, another, because sometimes it gets so much, especially when dealing with trauma.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for mentioning, yeah, those two. It's definitely important, like seeing my own therapist and then reaching out to my colleagues
Yes, yes. No, we
and
support
kind
each
of,
other.
yes, be there for each other. Say we're in this together, and you know, how can I help this person in the best way? Or maybe there's a barrier for me, or maybe this is affecting me too much. And so it's really about, you know, being there for each other and getting the help that we need
Absolutely.
to be the most helpful to
Effective,
others.
yeah, to others, yeah, and be
Yeah.
there for our families, because if we are coming home
Yeah.
and stressed, we don't want to get that on our children. We want to be
Yes.
also ready for ourselves and our families, and not to have this counter transference and give it to someone else. Yeah,
Yes, definitely. And I think that reminds me of that vulnerability also,
exactly.
like even with our family members,
Mhm.
to be able to come home and to tell, you know, my daughter or my son, they're a bit older, 11 and 13, to be able to say, you know what, you know, I had a tough
Yeah,
day. Like I had some tough sessions, and I'm just not there right now. And just to be able to say that, and for them to know that, you know, I'm not just uh, I'm super mom, but not not in the sense of being perfect. You know,
yeah,
I have my flaws and I have tough days and I feel certain things, negative emotions, and you know, it's great too,
yeah.
right? Vulnerability creates that connection. So they'll give me a hug, or you know, bring me something, or just kind of leave me
Yeah.
alone, whatever it is.
Sometimes, yes, yeah, and I think they will learn from us, like by
Yeah.
leading by example, if you will. Well, my daughter is older; she's 21, so
Okay.
she's an adult. So sometimes
Hmm.
I can tell her more,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
but still, sometimes you just want that space, if you will, just to breathe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yes. Yes.
so at the end of the interview, I want to thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation with you, Saadia, and
Thank you.
my pleasure. Thank you, and it's an honor for me to be here and to have you on the interview. Thank you so much. For,
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here.
thank you,
Thank you.
thank you. So for the audience, I don't see more questions. Thank you for everyone watching us. If you would like to contact Saadia, I have her website on the link. And if you would like to contact me, also I have my information. Like and share this video. I will download it on YouTube, so you can watch it on mine, or you can also, Saadia, you can take it also. You can download it on yours. So
Sure.
yeah. So thank you again, and hopefully we'll have more collaboration in the future.
Yes, I hope
So maybe
so.
you can
Yeah,
come
I
to
look forward to
Pennsylvania,
it.
or maybe I can come to New York, or maybe online.
Sure.
Wherever.
It's not that far of a drive. Definitely.
Absolutely.
I would love to. Yes.
It's an honor to have you here.
Honor to be here. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
night. Thank you.
You too. Have an amazing night.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.